Welcome to the Solar Panel, the podcast focusing on all things ESG within the warehouse, logistics and fulfillment sector. Joining me as ever to discuss movements in the energy market is Luke Rowson, the energy manager at Perfect Sense Energy and ASG Energy Services Limited. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm very well, thank you, Tony. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you in the building? I believe you got locked out.
No, I'm in the cabin again.
You're back in the cabin?
Yeah, I forgot my keys and then had a palaver to get back in because no one else had their keys who was also outside, which was quite comical.
Well, at least the sun's out. It should be quite warm in there today.
Should be. It's not. It's quite cold, actually.
There you go. Right, Luke. Energy prices then. I don't think we need to talk about too much. Let's just talk about what's going on. We haven't spoken for 2 or 3 weeks. What are energy prices doing?
So I think when we last spoke, things were still quite positive or beginning to look more positive since the start of the new year. The good news, I guess, is that that's held true. I think there was a lot of concerns back end of last week, middle of last week, about a potential beast from the east coming again, plunging all of Europe into a year-long winter and all of that, which just didn't materialise, really. We had a couple of chilly days. Market didn't really move during that period, a couple of percentage up, but nothing to write home about, and then returned back to its nice downwards trajectory for both gas and power since then. Still tumbling around. We had a bit of movement upwards today and yesterday, but that just appears to be more the market hitting a theoretical bottom. There's nothing fundamental driving that. Nothing's actually really changed. So it's looking coming into spring and coming out of spring now. Aren't we in spring, out of spring? I always forget.
We are in spring now, yeah. Astrological and calendar spring as well.
It's nice to be rounded with it. We're in a nice position coming into summer, which I think by stark contrast as where we were last year, prices should hopefully at least stay where they are, if not come off further as we come into summer, and we might have a relatively positive summer from a pricing perspective.
I've spoken to 2 or 3 people in the last couple of weeks who are sort of saying, they're renewing at 35p-ish, 37p-ish, depending on how big they are. Still a lot of people, in sort of collaborative groups, not necessarily a basketball part of a bigger organisation, and they're bi-central and it's dictated to them. But does that ring true around that sort of mid 30p mark?
We're even starting to see some lower prices now, sort of 26s to 29s. We've had a couple of electricity quotes. Gas prices are now back around the 6.7p mark in some cases. So
wow,
from the highs of this time in August last year, 90p's, 100p's for electricity, 20p for gas in some cases. So we've come a long way. Obviously, still a long way off pre-COVID prices, but I think it's perhaps at a more comfortable level for people.
That's ahead of the Cornwall Insights pricing, isn't it? They're still saying this year maybe high 30s. So we're under that at the moment. When's the next Cornwall Insights forecast out, Luke?
Yes, I think it's a quarterly report. So I think we had the last one was Q4 last year. So I'd imagine any time after the end of March, so probably mid-April, end of April, we'll get their Q1 report, which I would imagine will be forecasted down lower again. So I think we've had a nice sort of downwards trajectory on the Cornwall reports as well, that even long term, the prices are dropping overall. So it'd be nice to see what that looks out till 2030 and see how much confidence there is back in the market.
One last question. Is the risk still China?
Yes, I think that's will be China will be the large looming question coming into summer. We know our European gas storage levels are quite good, but there will still be that mad rush, which was relatively new, the mad rush last year to fill gas storage by that October end date by a minimum 80% across Europe. So that, depending on how close or how soon European countries start filling up those gas reserves for winter, will determine whether we see prices stay where they are or whether they start to ratchet up again quite quickly for a brief period of time and then drop off again like they did last year. But China will still be a determinant factor in how tight that gas supply becomes into Europe.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for your time. All that's left for me to do with this edition is to thank my guest today, and once again for looking after us from an energy price point of view. Thanks again for your time, Luke.
No problem. Thank you, Tony.
I want to thank the producer and marketer, as always, Kyle Swindells, for all his help putting this podcast together. Thanks again, Kyle. And as my daughter constantly reminds me, if you've liked this podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell, whatever that means. That's all for this edition. My name's Tony Gresty. That was the Solar Panel Podcast. Until next time, goodbye.